cauliflower, anything in that mustardy type family. We're gonna plant those in our bed and mulch them in. I'll do a little bit of irrigation, not a whole lot because it's very time consuming, and we've got a busy class here. So we're gonna do those things. We're gonna build that. We're gonna talk about the soil and the tomato beds, which are gonna have tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, and cucumbers. So we need about 3 different types of soil. We're gonna work through that. So that'll be a good raised bed lesson for you. And then we're gonna do a little weeding because now we can start to see the difference in our crop. So, we can also plant a succession now of lettuces.
Yeah.
So if Sam knows this, I don't know if I have any in here though. No, they're all upstairs. That's okay. I will run and grab those lettuces. We use this in the garden to help prep and inoculate the soil. Look, here's my product placement. We use that. It's literally like sprinkles on a cupcake, very light. So these will go here.
I've seen that with roses too, but do you do it for every
tomato plants? We want to do tomatoes come in determinate and indeterminate. Determinate means they're determined to make all their fruit in one fell swoop. Indeterminate means they can't decide and they make it all summer. So that's how I remember. There's probably some other reason, but I remember because they're either determined or they're not. Indeterminate tomatoes are beefsteaks, those little clustery things that you get like a whole cluster on a stem, slicing tomatoes. Those are the ones that will produce tomatoes all summer and ripen as they go. Sometimes cherry tomatoes fall in either category. Sometimes cherry tomatoes are just your enemy. But Roma or paste tomatoes usually are determinate, which is great because you can pick a whole bunch of them, set them out on the counter for a week, let them all come to about the same state, and make sauce, and can sauce, or freeze it, or however you do that. So we're gonna plant 2 beefsteaks or 2 indeterminate tomatoes and 2 determinates. One of those determinates is gonna be a cherry, and one will be a plum, if we have that. So what I need you guys to do is shop for our tomatoes. You each get one. And then we want to pick the smallest we have.
And you said a plum or a cherry?
Because I still can see my emergent leaves. Yeah. So when I plant them, we're going to do something very different. Okay. We're going to get a different result. These are done for production. They're done for the greenhouse. If I was to buy this plant at home, I would still take it home and do what we're going to do to it.
Okay, cool.
Because we want to have we want to double that root system before we put them outside. So we can take these. Oh wait, let's just make a tray.
So then this guy, this Moby grape, it kind of looks like a Roma. Is it more like a...
I think that's been crossed between, a grape tomato is usually a cross between a cherry and a Roma.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
That's how they get that grape shape.
Yeah.
Most tomatoes are selected and bred. The super old-fashioned kind of tomatoes that they were growing in South America before the Europeans got here do not exist anymore. They've all been wiped out. There's still some old potatoes that are left, little tiny purple things, and they're kind of bitter and nasty. Because Europeans select for large, juicy, sweet vegetables and fruit, and I think that the native population sort of accepted what was there and weren't quite so determined to impose their will on it. Because corn, the same thing. They were growing the same kind of corn for almost 2,000 years, and it didn't really change genetically until the Europeans showed up. And as it moved north, it changed genetically a little bit more too. But, so we can set those down. We're going to do some more shopping. Broccoli, cabbage, and then we want to look through and see what else they have. We might put in a Brussels sprouts if we see one today. If we don't, that's okay. We might grab a cauliflower. So my point here is I would say, let's bring some out and see what we got. I'll bring a tray down here too. They just threw a whole bunch of seeds in here. These have been individually transplanted. Yeah. Or individually dropped seed, which is either way is better. The gob is nice for making salad. It's not nice for getting a head of lettuce. Right. So yeah, let's grab one of touch peppers. Peppers are particular. They don't like being messed with. They don't like being bullied. They like to be kept the same temperature in the day and the night. Unlike tomatoes that sort of prefer a little rough treatment. Peppers like to be sovereign and their own little babies. So when we move them from one place to another, they hate it and they fight about it. So when I do transplant them outdoors, I will try to recreate the system that they're in for as long as possible and let them acclimate very slowly. Eggplant are a little less particular one way or the other, but I would go ahead and let's upplant an eggplant. Why not? It's not going to hurt. Again, I'm going to choose somebody who's stout and thick and in the center, and I will show you. I would pick somebody like that, nice and upright and stable and not very tall. So, or this guy.
Now, how long after this has been planted in here are we transplanting?
I would transplant them at this stage.
It's about a month to 2 weeks.
Depends on your growing environment.
Yeah.
Probably more like 5 or 6 weeks.
Okay.
From beginning seed.
Okay. Yeah.
From beginning seed. Yeah. And it depends on your environment. So anyway, so we won't do peppers. We'll wait and do peppers at transplant time. I see a tray. Let's grab a tray. We'll load everybody in it. There we go. You can pull the I'll give it to pull out the tomatoes, and I'll set these guys back here. There you go, friends. Now, tomatoes are really tomatoes are tough. Tomatoes thrive in adversity, and they like a lot of food. They like a deep drink regularly, but they also like a chance to not have any. So we stress tomatoes to encourage vigorous growth. Never stress peppers. Peppers don't like stress, they die. Eggplant's sort of halfway between. You can do either one with it, one way or the other. What I did is I started a soil mix here, and then I brought down a bag somewhere.
It's over here.
Yeah, there it is. This is mostly Pro Mix. In here, there's a little bit of earthworm castings and Pro Mix, and then I'm gonna
What's Pro Mix?
Pro Mix is a potting mix that we use here. It's kind of light and fluffy. There's bags of it all along up front. It's an organic mix here that is about 1/3 peat, 1/3 bark chips, and 1/3 garden soil, with a little bit of vermiculite or perlite thrown in.
1/3 bark chips.
That's what the mix is in Pro Mix. That's
And 1/3, what was the last one?
peat,
bark,
and then garden soil.
Garden soil.
Yeah. And then I added some earthworm casings, and then we're gonna dump in.
How much?
Well, I'm gonna. Yeah. Can you? Yeah. You here? Let's come down here in the mountains of Muhammad. Okay. Go ahead and dump some in. This is more garden mix. I want my tomatoes in something a little heavier now. That's good. Because when I put them in my garden, I don't want them shocked out. If I grow them in peat all the time, take them and put them in the garden, and do a total soil change, that's a little too much stress for anything, really. So if you're gonna upplant, you're better off to upplant into your garden soil. When you transplant, you should add the material that the plant is in to the area where you're transplanting. So if we were gonna take this out, we'd put this in our garden soil, and we'd put potting mix in our garden soil so that we're not completely shocking this baby up. There's a difference between shock and stress. Stress is bad weather, cold nights, new planting techniques. Stress and adversity build a stronger root system. Shock says no. Frost is a shock, flood is a shock, and transplant is always a shock. You always want to transplant on a cloudy day if you can help it. If you can't help it, that's why God made umbrellas. And I had an umbrella on a hand truck, and it would follow me around the garden on transplant day, because if I didn't, And then I would cover things up with frost cloth too immediately if it's sunny. You cover things right away. So we're gonna make here part garden soil, part potting mix to pull these up into it. I'm not gonna add any fertilizer right now. I don't actually want these things to grow more leaves. I want them to grow roots for the next month before we put them out. I don't care if they get taller. I only care that they double or triple their root size. Okay, I'll do one. You guys can do one. People freak out about this. I had an employee once and she completely freaked out about tomatoes because she'd be like, you're just, I just slam them in the bucket. You know, we had so many to do. I'm just like, slam them in the bucket. She's like, no, just slam them in the bucket. So I put down a little bit. Oh, she's gonna miss. You take off your coat. You almost missed me doing it.
Oh no! Oh no!
I want a nice, dense bed. And then I want a nice comforter over the top. So you bury them up to their necks. You're gonna wanna leave a nice inch or so of watering space. And then this grows. So everything down now what I buried
It's all root now.
will all grow roots. So I have another 3 inches or 2.5 inches of root. You can even go deeper if you want, but it's not that important. You just want to make sure and bury it up to its neck.
So if you've got one like this is still the seed leaf, but this guy is still dangling out. Do you want to pull that off or
No,
just bury it?
just bury it.
Okay.
It's not going to hurt anything. If this tomato was grown up and fell over, that stem would grow roots. So those stems will grow roots. I think the leaf stems can grow roots sometimes if they drop on the ground, especially if the plant has water all the way around it, and anywhere they touch, they can propagate. So, but we want to make sure that it gets nice and firmly set in a decent, heavy situation, so those roots have to really work to get out and grow stronger. These plants don't have good roots right now. I mean, they're adequate, but I want to see twice that, and I want to see them twice as thick.
Yep.
And then when we take this out of its pot, which if it gets much taller than this, I'll repot it again into something
Bigger.
this size or even larger, like a 2-gallon. When I was selling them at farmers markets, I would try to get as many as I can into a big pot like this, just to have it be nothing but roots at the bottom. And then those would be the people who would come back and say, I had success with my tomatoes, I had lots of fruit in the middle of summer. If you put this in the ground in the beginning of June with that particular root system, there's a reason why you're not seeing fruit in August.
Right.
Because it just
It
didn't.
has to take all the time to.
Yes. So here, you guys can do those. You can, and I did the Oregon Spring, so you can do the eggplant then. This settles the soil, and then the next one I want it to kind of run through a little bit.
No, we didn't do the mycorrhizal on.
It was already
It
in
was
there.
It was in there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So straight
If I'm-
into the mix.
Yeah, if I'm going to transplant, I'm going to put a bunch in the mix. The dripper, and then I'm going to take the dripper off because these are not ready for the trash can. So I don't want, when I close the end, I don't want the dripper in the end, and I don't want the dripper at the nozzle. So let's do one off here. Oops, sorry. And we want it, we're kind of about the same. Take that off, take that off. So, and we'll just do 4 right now. I'll add one later. There is no reason for me to water part of the bed where the artichokes are gonna be, because all I would do is add weed food. So we'll just starve that for a while. So there we go. So how I would be accomplishing this is, let me grab a couple of staples too. That door's locked. So always a maze around here. Everything is. We know about where we want this. We want our plants about 8 inches apart. So I'm just going to put this in now and peg it. I wish I could find some more because I would peg both. But
On either side, right?
Yep, on
Yeah.
either side of the plant. So we're going to peg it in and just leave it there. And I don't have any staples right at this minute, so we'll just set that.
Let me just get you a big rock.
Yeah, or just they can just lay there too. I'll run and grab some more. I'll get you guys started here. So what I was saying about home, how I would handle this at home is I would then take my mulch and put it right on top. All the way down. And I want to have loose, fluffy, preferably old mulch. And then I'm gonna do a little compact in. Then I know where I need my plant. I can expose where I want to put it. I just use this because this is what I was like born with in my hand. And I'm gonna go like that. Make a nice big hole. Got my real stake. Actually, I don't want the Brussels sprout here. It takes up too much real estate. Switch
Red or
okay. No, this is perfect.
cauliflower?
Sorry, yeah, that is. Brussels sprouts get about 4 feet tall, about 3 feet wide.
Yeah.
So it's going to need to go that way. Cabbage is a much better choice to have at the beginning of next to where the customers are going to be. Again, this is decent root. It's not perfect, but it's decent. I would have upplanted these a little while ago and put them in more intense soil like we did there. Speaking of more intense soil, let's dig that out. And then, yeah, we're gonna add some of what we made with the mycorrhizae. And here you go, you can have some of that. And then I'm gonna put her in right between. And I'm gonna bury it down. I'm gonna cover those first leaves, those emergent leaves, entirely. And then lift up above, and then I'm gonna give it a really good set. Then I'm gonna hold the plant, pull that mulch right up to it. And make it kind of, a little cozy spot.
So you don't bury it, you just smoosh it.
I smoosh it around. I bury those.
Right, you bury
leaves.
this,
Yep,
but as far
and
as the
then
mulch, you're not like
no,
covering
I'm
it.
pushing it right up to
Okay.
it. If I was in a real garden situation, after this much disruption, there'd be a huge weed pull. Huge weeds emerging would happen because every time you disturb, you get weeds.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do this because broccoli grows so much better as a solo plant. Unlike peas, which love to be snuggled, broccoli brassica wants to be alone. So I'm going to go find some more stakes.
So would you bury this leaf?
No, the emergent leaf only. Yes, just like that. Just the emergent leaf.
And then the mulch, are you gonna leave that on the whole growing season?
Oh
or
yeah,
you gonna-
yeah, that'll stay.
Would you
all-
top it off too? If it,
Yeah.
no?
No, I just leave it here, be watering underneath it, so it's actually helping keep the moisture down underground. It keeps the whole area a little more dry. Brassica also loves silver plastic mulch. If you want to do mulch, you do silver with brassica. It keeps the moths and stuff away.
Interesting.
Things like that. Probably this afternoon, I will go and put more frost cloth over the top of this. After I find more staples. And keep these covered up for another month.
And if you didn't have the irrigation, would you pull back the mulch to water, or would you?
Well, I would assume that if you're doing beds and you're going to water by hand, no, I wouldn't pull back the mulch to water. But I might put the plant in something like this, and then then mulch over it so that
So
when
is this too high, you think? Or is it
No, I think that's good. So then if I did mulch over it, at least I know the water's going to go towards the base of the plant root system. Broccoli roots get up, brassica roots get about this big. They get very dense. They get about that deep.
Okay.
They turn into something that resembles a hairy basketball. That, more like a volleyball. So let me grab some more on this side, and I'm gonna just rob some stakes from over here. Like the cabbage, I'm gonna let that get nice and big, nice big firm head. I'm gonna very gently cut it off, and then 2 weeks later, there's going to be 4 little babies around the outside.
Oh.
And those make really nice slaw cabbage.
Ooh, okay.
So I'm not gonna pull that cauliflower out either. I'm just gonna leave it in there.
Okay.
And then take it out in the fall or rototill it in the spring.
Cool.
The roots tend to be really thick and heavy, so they don't rototill very well. But it does help keep the soil aerated and less compact if they have a plant in it. So, but yeah, broccoli's the big guy on the market table. So I would put in 5 times more broccoli than cauliflower, Brussels sprouts combined.
And are you gonna fertilize these at all? throughout the
Probably not.
season?
Probably not this year.
Okay.
These are really good. I might, if I look at them and say, "Oh, look, I've got something it needs," and like I need nitrogen or I need something. But this is brand new virgin soil. I should be able to grow a lovely garden with virgin soil. Next year, I would have to start feeding it more.
And what kind of soil did you use?
We're gonna build that right here, actually. So
Sorry.
there's
There's the
that's
segue.
questions,
Good
questions,
job.
Very good segue. Very good. So these beds are gonna have the tomatoes and the eggplant and the cauliflower. And see how big? I didn't know it was that big. We're gonna add in. And I don't know how to
Eyeball it.
but I'm looking for diversity. That's my key. So yeah, we'll build at least 2 here. This potting mix. This is, and I don't think this is rocket surgery. Building soil is based on diversity, and the more different things you have, the better your plants will ultimately grow and be stronger.
So are you dumping this whole bag?
Yeah, we'll put that all in here. So that we're not restricting structure or diversity of both of those, and then large quantities of organic material. There we go. I like it. And you can see that I spread some straw out on the very bottom. Now, this is the mid dressing. They'll be on top of here. We'll run some of that stuff, that pro-mix, to give it that nice pop. So this then, we need to manipulate the structure all the way down. Yeah,
Okay.
we want to turn it. If I was rototilling, I'd be using a tiller.
Okay.
Down and over. And you can
It's part of the class where you realize you're MJ Slater.
I love it. Great. I need the work.
arm, you'd be.
That's right. You don't get to eat until you make me a tomato bed.
I love it.